Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Bedoya, thank you so much for being here, and Commissioner Slaughter, it's really nice to see you. Commissioner Bedoya, as Commissioner at the FTC, I think your experience on competition, artificial intelligence, and how these things affect everyday people is extremely important to this discussion. And we all understand that we're in the early days of what may be a massively transformational technological moment. It's plausible that this may be like the emergence of the internet, the mobile phone, or really even electricity. But it's so important that we don't lose sight of the central point here, which is how does this technology help or hurt working people? That's what I'm focused on. Commissioner Bedoya, you spent a great deal of time as FTC Commissioner outside of DC, traveling around the country, hearing from people. And I want to know, have you heard a sense of concern from people, working people, about how AI is impacting their lives?
Sure. So I confess a lot of my roundtables are focused on, groceries, pharmacy, that kind of thing.
Everyday costs.
What's that?
Everyday costs.
Everyday costs, that's right. I will say a couple things on this. A lot of people look at what happened around the actors and writer strikes, and they say, oh, that's just a Hollywood thing. But entry-level actors and entry-level writers don't make that much money. And you had situations where people were quite worried, and with good reason, that the cost of selling your first script was going to be to submit, all your work to be fed into one of these AIs, so that there would be no need to hire you in the future. I also do think there have been a lot of concerns. I think my colleague Commissioner Slaughter has done a roundtable on this, on the use of price-fixing algorithms in rental housing markets.
That's where I'm going.
Yes, and that's a real concern.
That's exactly where I'm going. Let's jump to that, because this is a deep concern of mine. Could you tell us in real terms, because you had talked about earlier that it's not just the algorithm itself in terms of RealPage, but there seems to be instances that we can look to. There seems to be evidence that there is actually some collusion happening here. And that's something that I'm deeply concerned about, and we all should. There is a crisis of housing in this country, and renters are over a barrel right now. They don't have a lot of options. So can you talk a little bit about how this is impacting regular people just in terms of trying to afford their rental housing?
Sure. So the allegations in this space are that these algorithms don't just offer the exact right amount of an increase so that a renter swallows the increase rather than tries to find a different place. There's allegations of actual overt in the RealPage lawsuit, calling between landlords to coordinate. But there's also allegedly information sharing, creating a pool of data that these landlords can draw on to increase rent without saying, while being able to say, oh, we never called each other. One really interesting point here is sometimes antitrust harms, because they're a little complex, can get a little technical. Mm-hmm. I'll just point out that one of the corporate landlords in the RealPage suit is a company called Greystar. FTC is also simultaneously suing Greystar for packing people's rent checks with these fake hidden fees like, oh, you want no cockroaches in your apartment? You got to pay extra for that. And so
pay extra for no cockroaches, huh?
Precisely. And so you see, anti-competitive conduct arm in arm with conduct that hurts consumers, in my view, pretty obviously.
So I do think it's important in this hearing, as we talk about the importance of not stifling innovation, to at the same time be able to hold both truths. We can be careful in our regulations. We can be careful in the guardrails that we're putting on. But I don't think anyone here, at least I hope not, that anyone on the antitrust committee would be supportive of landlords colluding to raise the price of rent. And I know in some instances we've seen that this AI dynamic pricing scheme has led to increases of over $800 over the course of a year of not just these hidden fees that we're talking about, but the prices that they're paying for rent itself. And of course, you've talked about how essential workers are being replaced in key industries where we see patients illegally being denied care because of an AI-based recommendation, where artists are being robbed of their work. And I just have to say, we have got to remember the importance of following the law when it comes to having FTC commissioners. And I think it's outrageous that you and Commissioner Slaughter were illegally removed from your positions. We need you on the watch to take care of my renters back home in Vermont who were being screwed over.
Gentlewoman's time is
I
expired.
yield back.
Gentlewoman yields back. I now recognize the gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. Harris, for